Hi, Dr. Rod. Here are my questions answered for the article Antecedents and Effects of Visionary Leadership. When and how leader work centrality is linked to visionary leadership and follower turnover intentions. The first question I will answer is, what theoretical frameworks are employed in the article to examine the antecedents and effects of visionary leadership, particularly focusing on the role of leader work centrality? The authors discussed a few theoretical frameworks employed to examine antecedents of visionary leadership, focusing on the role of leader work centrality. There are a few studies on the antecedents of visionary leadership. Traits of leader, expressivity, creativity, and self-confidence, quote, have been identified as antecedents of visionary leadership, quote, from Buss, Kearney, Noreen, and Gandhi, 2023, page 415. According to Buss et al., 2023, quote, research has shown that leaders with high levels of future-oriented construals in the morning and a strong leadership self-identity are more likely to engage in visionary leadership during the day, and that leaders with a strong tendency for self-projection, that is, mentally projecting themselves into alternative scenarios, tend to act more often as visionary leaders, end quote, page 415. Another research study on antecedents has showed that leaders that can describe their visions have shown temporal projection. They are able to vividly describe their future visions for the organization, which is seen as effective communication. Buss et al. 2023 state, quote, to be fully motivated to continuously and authentically communicate a vision, a leader must care deeply and be passionate about their work, end quote, page 415. Buss et al. Suggests that leaders with high work centrality are more willing to use visionary behaviors, even if it is hard or they can face negative consequences. The authors discuss a few theoretical frameworks employed to examine effects of visionary leadership, focusing on the role of leader work centrality. According to Buss et al. 2023, research has shown that, quote, individuals with high work centrality experience higher levels of work engagement and job satisfaction, and are more committed to their organization, and have lower turnover intentions, end quote, page 415. Buss et al. Described that even with positive effects between work centrality and visionary leadership behaviors, it is not yet fully clear if work centrality influences visionary leadership behaviors in times of high uncertainty, which many work organizations are facing. The authors state that it is important to research more the link between work centrality and visionary leadership, which will help scholars and practitioners predict what individuals will exhibit visionary leadership behaviors. Buss et al. 2023 uses human and social capital theories to argue, quote, that leaders with high work centrality care so deeply about their work that they are more willing than others to engage in visionary leadership. A leader behavior that is often seen as extraordinary and as an act of unconventional risk-taking, and thus test and potentially strain their relationship with others in the organization, end quote, page 414. They argue that leaders' work centrality is more important for leaders with low organizational tenure than high. Buss et al. 2023, quote, propose that while leaders with high organizational tenure have already acquired large amounts of organization-specific knowledge and many social contracts, which makes visionary leadership less difficult and risky for them. Leaders at the beginning of their organizational tenure need high levels of work centrality to compensate for their lack of these resources, and thus being willing to engage in visionary leadership, end quote, page 414. The second question I will answer is, how is leader work centrality conceptualized and operationalized in the study? And what implications does this construct have for understanding the emergence of visionary leadership behaviors? Leader work centrality is conceptualized and operationalized in the study through a lens of 4 hypotheses. In this study, Buss et al. Had 4 hypotheses that they researched. The first hypothesis is, quote, leader work centrality is positively related to visionary leadership, end quote, page 416. The authors found that this hypothesis was confirmed by the study. The second hypothesis is, quote, leader organizational tenure moderates the relationship between leader work centrality and visionary leadership such that this relationship is more strongly positive when leader organizational tenure is low rather than high, end quote, page 417. The authors found, quote, that leader organizational tenure moderates the relation between leader work centrality and visionary leadership such that leader work centrality's effect on visionary leadership is more strongly positive, end quote, page 417. The third hypothesis is visionary leadership is positively related to follower meaningfulness. End quote. Page 417. This hypothesis was supported by the study. The fourth hypothesis is, quote, there is a conditional indirect effect such that visionary leadership and follower meaningfulness transmit the interactive effect of leader work centrality and organizational tenure onto follower turnover intentions. This indirect effect is more strongly positive when leader organizational tenure is low rather than high. End quote. Page 418. The authors found that there is a conditional indirect effect with visionary leadership and follower meaningfulness as mediators. These mediators affect leader work centrality and organizational tenure and follower turnover intentions. The authors discussed implications to develop the understanding of emergence of visionary leadership behaviors. They found that work centrality's effect on visionary leadership is contingent on the leader's organizational tenure. Leader organizational tenure influences leaders' attributes to translate into leadership behavior. They found that when leaders have a long organizational tenure, that work centrality is not related to visionary leadership. Buss et al. Found that, quote, long tenured leaders for whom work is not a particularly important part of their lives exhibit just as much visionary leadership as do those whom work is a central aspect of their identity. It is thus possible that with the human and social capital that leaders acquire in an organization over time, that they are able to grow into and play the role that they may be expected of them. That is, to articulate vision to provide direction and motivate followers, even if they themselves are not particularly immersed in and passionate about their work. End quote. Page 421. Leaders with longer organizational tenure may possibly substitute work centrality as their focus of visionary communication. The authors found that leaders who are new to their organization can have a low amount of organization-specific human and social capital. They stated that they have the potential to be hesitant to engaging in articulating visionary behavior. They may still be understanding their organization and framing around what is working and what visions they can have for their organization. Leaders who have high work centrality and low organizational tenure would still show visionary leadership. Overall, high work centrality in leaders shows that leaders will communicate what they envision for the future of the organization. The last question I will answer is, analyze the moderating effects of contextual factors on the relationship between visionary leadership and follower turnover intentions, as discussed in the article. How do these moderating variables shape the impact of visionary leadership on follower outcomes? Hypothesis 4 is where the authors studied the conditional indirect effect of visionary leadership. They found that, quote, there is a conditional indirect effect such that visionary leadership and follower meaningfulness act as sequential mediators that transmit the interactive effect of leader works centrality and organizational tenure onto follower turnover intentions. End quote. Page 420. The moderating variables impact visionary leadership on follower turnover intentions. If a leader had low organizational tenure, work centrality and visionary leadership was negatively related to follower turnover intentions. Work centrality is a very important antecedent of visionary leadership and follower outcomes. This is especially found when leaders are new to their work organization. The authors state that the organizations should consider work centrality in their leaders through the hiring process if they are looking for visionary leadership. They noted that the younger generation seems to have less work centrality as they strive for a better work-life balance. Organizations have a greater chance of increased follower meaningfulness and decreased follower turnover intentions if they hire leaders with a high work centrality, which tend to have a higher chance of exhibiting visionary leadership. The authors state that there are limitations to their research and that there needs to be more field experience to test the moderating role of leaders' organizational tenure to measure follower turnover intentions. Thank you so much for listening, Dr. Rod, and I look forward to hearing you soon. Thank you.